Hello everyone, welcome to Bear Academy. This is another coffee chat about some designers' daily problems and thoughts. Today I want to talk about this topic, how to share confidential cases as our portfolio. The basic question will be, is it shareable and why we want to share those confidential cases? What to share? Any other tips? Right, if you're interested, let's jump into this topic. I think it's not only for designer, but maybe for most of the professionals, like programmer, author, writer. We all have something that we already created in our current company or the previous company or some other contract or client, and because of some business confidential stuff, we cannot share it. So we cannot show this is our experience. This is more like not only a designer's problem, but for most of the professional, especially knowledge workers, it could be a problem. And recently, I just helped a design student or a junior designer, and then I realized it's probably not only a problem for the designers working in the large corp, but also for many other contractors or freelancers. So my student, she finds a client that she can work for a couple of weeks, and this client just share her business idea with my student, and then asked my student and other team workers to start to build this concept. But he asked them to not share it because this could be a business sensitive case. And then I feel a little bit surprised, because most of the time it will be for a large corp that said, okay, this is business sensitive, but even for a small startup, idea, it still feels okay, you cannot share it, and even before you create anything. So I realize it's not only for a large corp designer's problem, but also most for everyone. So learn a little bit of how to deal with it could be a good tip. And I'm just sharing something from my personal experience. So first, let's talk about why. And why we share. I think if you understand question why, it could be follow up with some other actions or not. For example, if you decided, okay, this is probably not helpful or not valuable for me to share anything, and then you can just stop doing anything after. But most of the time, I think for me, first, if I want to share something that I've done, first is for reflection, that I can learn something from it by sharing it. And also, it also can share my experience, can showcase my experience or solve some problems in the real world scenario. And also, it could be helpful for other designers to learn. So yeah, and at the end, also it's helpful for me to build my credibility on solving some questions in some problem in that domain. So basically, that's the value for sharing things like that. So if you're clear about that, we can follow up with that with other steps. And if it's don't share, if people ask you don't share, and probably just because the business sensitive and for competitors or other things. So that's why. I always start to think about why first, and then decide to go further or not. And the next step is about two major roles as designers universe. So the first is the in-house designer, second is contractor, and I think the strategy or the ways of sharing things could be different. And for in-house designer or other professionals, first, I think the first basic role would be check your contract and policy very carefully. So check your employer's policy about sharing things, about property, intellectual property, and also check your contract. So most of the time you'll find a very detailed descriptions about instructions about this. So read it carefully, and then you'll understand, okay, what is you can share, what are the things you can't. And also, if you're not sure, always confirm with your manager or supervisor, like, hey, I'm thinking to write a post about this. Is that okay? Or are there any other things that I can consider? So this is the second tip. But the third tip would be just to use your common sense. For example, in a business most of the business modules or analyze about the business, something like that would be good to not share. And anything relevant to numbers, like how much revenue you've got, and also like how many employees your company has exactly. So those are the numbers you probably can't share. And the third thing is about privacy. So anything relevant to your customers or some individuals. So yeah, that's definitely not to share. For example, if you're doing some user research or some user interviews, do not share those individuals' information. And yeah, by any format like video, image, or copy. Yeah. So those are for the in-house designers. And for the contractors or freelancers, so also first check your contract. But if you don't have a contract with a client, yeah, be sure to prepare a contract from your side. And also there are many downloadable template that you can find from internet. So just prepare for it, and also know a little bit about intellectual property. And from my limited understanding, the IP, the intellectual property, it's quite complex. But in general, if you work for a client or company, most of the time the property will belong to the client or company, and you have the right to be the author, to announce you are the author of this. For example, if you design a website, or maybe just let's use this as an example. If you design a website and the website belongs to your client, okay, and anything you used, anything you build on the website belongs to your client or company, because you get paid for doing that. But you can use it as a case, like, oh, I'm the author of this website. And also I think most of the time you have the right to sign or to demonstrate this is your work and you created, so you are the author of this. So from my limited understanding, this is IP, what it means for like general knowledge workers, right? And also the next step for contractor and freelancer is to list things out and check with your clients. And for some small startup client, they don't mind that you can share things use it as an example, and probably they would like to be involved and have a check before you publish it. Yeah, but in general they are happy about that. And for the early stage, if you haven't done anything and your client asks you to keep it confidential, that makes super sense, right? So just let them know, okay, you're happy to do that, and be sure it's included in your contract, right? And final tip that I want to do that is to, even with limitations that you can't share it, that doesn't mean you cannot review and write a case study about it. So this is what I will strongly suggest designers, programmers, content creators. If you be involved with a confidential project, after it's finished, you still need to write a case study. You still need to review it and talk about how you've learned, what you've learned, and what you could be improved later. And just imagine you might be able to share it later. So use the proper format and tune and tone to write it down. But you don't need to. You just don't share it, right? You just keep it confidential to yourself as well. And the reason for doing that is, first, you can reflect things and document things you've learned while the juice is fresh. Because if after a few months or even a few weeks, when you complete the project and you haven't reflected, and then everything will gone. Like most of the things you've learned will gone. So that's for your personal goods. And also, maybe in the future, you will be involved, or you might be interested in some role that you want to go for, you want to apply, and then you find, okay, this is quite similar to this project you worked on. And in that case, you can ask your potential employer to sign an NDA or confirm with you in a written format, and then you can share this case study to them, like point to point. So this is how most of the designers working in the large corp would do that. So they will prepare a PDF version of the case study, and then if the client's happy to not share it publicly, to not share with any other one, so if they confirm it, and then send them the PDF copy to show, okay, this is how we done for your previous project. So this is like you can still review it. So as the end, after wrapping up, so even it's confidential. So you might get to this quote, oh, it's confidential, so you don't need to, you can't write down, you can't share, so you probably don't need to review it. No, that's not right. I would strongly suggest, even it's confidential, write things down and review it, list all the things you've learned, and when it's ready, you can share publicly. Right, so this is only my personal experience and not a formal advice. So if you're still concerned about this or you have some problems, this is just give you some thoughts, and I would strongly suggest you to find a professional consultant to ask, maybe a lawyer or maybe someone very familiar with this. So yeah, hope it's helpful, and let me know if you have any thoughts or comments below. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao!